Hi, I'm Jack. Welcome to my channel. This thing here, the Caspian Sea. What is it? Maybe you never thought about it. Maybe you think you know the answer and it's blindingly obvious. You may be surprised to learn that exactly what the Caspian Sea is not universally agreed upon. Hopefully, I'm about to make clear for you exactly how unclear its situation is. Some time ago, I sat in an evening class. Not a geography evening class, it bears mentioning. And the teacher asked us, "What's the largest lake in the world?" She proceeded to put up 4 options. The answer I would have given, if she had not put up any options, Lake Baikal, was not present. As I recall, the options were Tanganyika, Huron, Victoria, and the Caspian Sea. I thought the Caspian Sea was in there as a trick, because while it is the world's largest inland body of water, it's a sea, not a lake, surely. She told us that the correct answer was, in fact, the Caspian Sea, and my brow went from creased to furrowed. The Caspian Sea? But that's a sea. It's in the name. There's no question it's the largest inland body of water, but Lake Baikal is the largest lake in the world. I decided to go away and do a teensy bit of research. I found that actually the situation's a bit more complicated than that. The question before us, which lake is the largest in the world, has 2 terms that need defining. Lake and large. I assume we're all in agreement that world means planet Earth, third one from the sun. So, let's start with the simpler seeming of these 2 terms. Large. Large surely only has one definition. Bigger, more massive, grander in scale, you're probably saying at your computer monitor, unaware that I can't hear you. You might think so, but in the context of a lake, large could actually mean 4 different things. Length, or breadth, depending on how you want to conceptualize that, a one-dimensional measure of the distance covered by the longest straight line you could lay out on the surface from shore to shore. Depth, a one-dimensional measure of the distance covered between the lake's surface and its deepest point. Surface area, a 2-dimensional measure of the total area of the surface of the lake. And finally, volume, a 3-dimensional measure of the depth, breadth, and length resolving into a cubic area. Now, the Caspian Sea, if included, is the largest lake in the world when judged by 3 of these criteria. At 1,025 meters, it is only the 3rd deepest lake in the world. That is after Lake Baikal in eastern Russia at 1,637, and Lake Tanganyika in Central Eastern Africa at 1,470. To me, the most reasonable of these measures to use seems like volume. The others seem a little too easy to cheat, I think, especially the one-dimensional ones. If I drill a 5 centimeter wide, 2 kilometer deep hole and put a hose pipe to it until it's filled up, could I claim to have created the world's deepest and therefore largest lake? I mean, I could, but I would not expect to be taken seriously. Even the measure of surface area is feasibly cheatable. As an example, Lake Tuz, or Tuzgulu, meaning Salt Lake in English, located about 100 kilometers south of Ankara, is nowhere near the size of the lakes we're considering, but nonetheless a huge lake measured by its surface area at 1,600 square kilometers. However, the average depth is only half a meter, and the maximum depth is only 1.5 meters. I could stand in that and still have 38 centimeters of me above the water. That's a head, neck, shoulders, and part of a chest. 1,600 kilometers, cut in half for the half-meter average depth, is 800,000 cubic meters. I had hoped to find a comparably sized lake to put that into perspective, but they don't publish figures for lakes that small, so the Scarhouse Reservoir in Yorkshire is the UK's 47th largest reservoir. it has a nominal water volume of 10,069,000 cubic metres. That's more than 12.5 times as much water as is in Lake Tuz, which has more than 2.3 times the surface area. You hear that, Lake Tuz? You're cheating. Cheating! Volume, by contrast, seems uncheatable. You can't artificially extend any axis without sacrificing others. So volume is what I would say we should use as size. But we have to be aware that these other definitions exist. If we don't include the Caspian Sea, the top spots go to Lake Tanganyika for length, Lake Superior in North America for surface area, and Lake Baikal, as previously mentioned, for depth, but also for volume, which is the reason I thought it was the largest originally. But you're probably saying, wait, Jack, you've not justified excluding the Caspian Sea yet. To which I say, we talked about me not being able to hear you through the screen, and I'm getting to that. We now need to define that second term. What is a lake? Pulling out my Oxford English Dictionary, this defines lake as a large body of water surrounded by land. So, a lot to unpack there. First of all, what does large mean? But Jack, you just... Shush. The screen, remember? I don't mean what does large mean in the sense that I just got through explaining. I mean, how large? How large is large? Is a pond large? Is a puddle large? Is a drop of dew large? This large seems intentionally vague. Also, surrounded by land? Aren't all the oceans surrounded by land? The oceans may not be enclosed by land, but you certainly can't go in an infinitely straight line anywhere on the ocean without hitting land eventually. In a sense, land surrounds you on the ocean. Also, what about rivers? Lots of rivers are incredibly large. The Amazon is a little under 7,000 kilometres long and spreads over a little over 7 million kilometres squared of basin, and it accounts for up to a fifth of the fresh water on Earth at any one time, i.e. very large. And apart from the mouth, it is entirely surrounded by land. Yet we all agree that oceans aren't lakes, rivers aren't lakes, and dewdrops aren't lakes. Clearly, we need a better definition. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say. A lake is an area filled with water localized in a basin that is surrounded by land, apart from any river or other outlet that serves to feed or drain the lake. Lakes lie on land and are not part of the ocean, and are therefore distinct from lagoons. They are also larger and deeper than ponds, though there are no official or scientific definitions. Lakes can be contrasted with rivers or streams, which are usually flowing. Most lakes are fed and drained by rivers and streams. This is a little better. We've got distinctions from rivers, ponds, and oceans, sort of, but it also concedes that there isn't really any definition that we can agree on exactly as to what lake actually means. So, I'm going to do my best to present arguments from both sides as to whether the Caspian should be a lake or a sea. I will be arguing with myself and presenting the argument for it being a lake first. Of course it's a lake, Jack, you idiot! It's completely surrounded by land. Maybe it's a little saline, but notice how neither of your definitions include the stipulation of the salinity. Salt lakes exist, and that doesn't make them seas. You mentioned one in Turkey earlier. Is that a sea? I didn't think so. You can't sail from Baku to San Francisco. Even if you try navigating along the rivers, they don't connect to the ocean. It's a completely self-contained endorheic basin. Part of being a sea is surely that it's connected to all of the other seas. You shouldn't even have to use rivers. If you do, then it makes it sound more like a lake, doesn't it? So there. Thank you, petulant straw man version of myself. Hey! You/I did everything you/I could to present the arguments fairly. It's not your/my fault I came out as a straw man. Yeah. Could have written you less arsey though. You might have come off as more credible. Yeah? Well, you didn't. Did you? Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, the arguments for it being a sea. So yes, it is saline. It's only about a third as salty as actual ocean water, but that's definitely not fresh water. Though, as the guy says, there isn't any stipulation that lakes have to be fresh. Saline lakes do exist, and are not seas. Also, people who live on the Caspian are functionally landlocked. They can sail to other parts of the Caspian, but can't sail anywhere outside the Caspian. However, to turn that point around on you, other Jack, the basin being endorheic, that's a basin draining to a body of water with no outflow to another body of water, for those of you who didn't know, could be viewed as support for it being a sea. Seas don't drain to other bodies of water. They have to maintain their level with evaporation, otherwise their level would rise from all of the water flowing into them. The Caspian Sea, maintaining its level by evaporation like a sea, rather than by outflow like a lake, is far from conclusive, but does rather seem to put it in the sea camp, no? Additionally, did you wonder at all why the Caspian Sea is salty? It's because it used to be part of the Paratethys Ocean. Much of the Eurasian steppe used to be covered under this ocean, called the Paratethys because it ran alongside the Tethys, which covered much of the Levant and eastern Mediterranean, and was named for a Greek Titan, wife of Oceanus. The Caspian Sea was part of this ancient ocean that got cut off about 5.5 million years ago due to tectonic uplift, according to Wikipedia. It did dry out quite a bit and left deposits all over its current basin before stabilising due to being fed by rivers, but there has been water there in some form since it was connected to the world's oceans, and there is still oceanic rather than continental crust under much of it. Lastly, my argument that we should think of the Caspian Sea as a sea, not a lake, is that it's just too big to be a lake. It might seem churlish to say that a body of water is too big to be the world's biggest lake, but it just doesn't seem fair to include it. It contains 3.3 times as much water as Lake Baikal, which contains only 1.25 times as much water as its next competitor, Lake Tanganyika, which contains only 1.56 times of the water of Lake Superior. It's almost twice as long as Lake Tanganyika, which is only 1.06 times longer than Baikal. It has 4.5 times the surface area of Lake Superior, which has only 1.2 times the surface area of its next competitor, Lake Victoria. Honestly, the only measure by which it doesn't completely blow all other competitors out of the water, no pun intended, is depth. It just seems to me that perhaps we should consider the Caspian Sea as something distinct from all of these similarly sized lakes, which it's many times bigger than. Perhaps, if we can't decide on whether it's a lake or a sea, then the answer should be neither. It's its own thing. But whatever you decide to call the Caspian, a sea, an ocean, a lake, a pond, a puddle, an endorheic drainage area, an oceanic remnant, or just a Caspian, I'd like to thank you for watching my video. Feel free to leave a comment telling me how wrong I am, or requesting something else you'd like to see me talk about. You could also subscribe if you fancy maybe seeing more videos like this in the future.